Hi, this is Dr. David Campt of the White Ally Toolkit and the Dialogue Company, and I want to share with you 9 research-based findings about how to encourage non-voters to vote. These tips I'm about to share with you, there's good research behind them that they can be very effective in moving people from the non-voter column to the voter column. Tip number 1, most important, be likable and relatable. You're going to be less effective if people experience you as a scold or as looking down on them or being condescending. You want to be likable and relatable. Now, the reach method I teach is all about that, but even if you're not going to use that particular method, be likable and relatable. That's an important thing for you to maximize your influence. Tip number 2, tell them you're going to check back with them after the election. There's good research that shows if people think that there's some accountability check, their neighbors are going to check on them, a particular friend's going to check, it's in the public record, they're more likely to vote if they know that. Number 3, tell people that many people are voting. It turns out that we're herd like animals, and we're more likely to vote if we think the turnout for the election is going to be high. This election coming, of course, that's going to be true, but the point is make that part of your messaging. Tip number 4, help them register if they have not done so. One big reason people don't vote is because they think of it as there's too many logistics. I got to register first, and then I got to vote. So help them get over the hump by just registering. You can tell them you're going to put off the voting decision until later, but just get registered. And research shows that just the act of registering makes people who are not inclined to vote go ahead and vote just because they're registered. Number 5, find an issue they care about and then link their vote to the issue. So this requires maybe a couple of conversations where you find out what they care about or you call upon your past memory of that, and then you show the relationship between the issue they care about and voting. Number 6, and this is subtle but important, use vocabulary and framing to make voting an issue of identity, not an action. Thus, if you're asking somebody, you say, "You're going to vote, aren't you?" As opposed to what you should say is, "You're a voter, aren't you?" So what the difference is that you turn the act of voting into an aspect of identity, not just an action. And research shows that reframing pushes people to vote. Number 7, employ the lose it or use it argument. Every salesperson knows that scarcity works. So if you tell them the realistic truth that there's a lot of politicians now who are purging people from the rolls and that their voting rights might be subject to being taken away, especially if they don't vote, then they're more likely to want to vote because they want to preserve their right to vote later, even if they're not using that right now. Number 8, raise the issue of voting on behalf of others. This is especially helpful if they tend to be empathetic and there's some group that's disadvantaged that might not have voting rights. It's children, it's the elderly, people who can't vote, it's people who are disabled, people who have trouble getting to the polls. If they care about some group that's disadvantaged, raise the issue of voting on behalf of them. And number 9, this is not often used but can be very effective, is to ask them to vote as a favor to you. There are a lot of people out there who might not be inclined to vote, but if somebody they care about asks them to vote as a favor to them, they might do that. So especially if you have a mutual favor type of relationship, then feel free to ask them to vote as a favor to you. These were 9 tips about how to get people who are discouraged voters or non-voters to vote. Thank you so much. Let's get out there and get people to the polls.